you have left?
We're halfway through.
Okay, sounds good.
I know,
I don't
sorry.
know if everyone can stay for the full for much, longer than an hour, but
Yeah, I don't think it'll take that much. I think the meteor part was at the beginning, so
okay.
it should. There's not that many left.
Okay. Sounds
Okay, so the sixth issue is about suitability. Again, just considering clutter directly below bat boxes. You don't want to have a lot of clutter below the bat box or in front of it. And again, the recommended height is important. And I did read. I mean, I didn't include a thing about pup catchers because I really haven't.
good.
Um, I haven't decided whether I really like the idea of pup catchers or not. These are additions that people will add during the pup season. It's just like a piece of mesh and wood that hangs out below the bat box to catch the babies if they fall. Instead, I read that you can tilt your bat box backwards 10 degrees, and that kind of gives the pups a better chance of staying in the bat box. I think pup catchers can provide perches for predators, so I think that might be an issue, and it might really depend on where you are. If you have a lot of crows and ravens and magpies around, I think they take advantage of that. So that wasn't really something I recommended. And predators are, that's the issue 7, is just considering predators. And of course, that's the height of bat boxes is really not about the bats so much as about the predators. You're trying to keep that bat house out of the leaping height of a domestic cat. And that really is where that all comes from. So bat houses that are lower will be used by bats, but you're leaving them open to being hunted by cats. And so, of course, one of the best practices to keep your cats in at night too, and not let them roam. Considering avian predators, that's important. Just close that thing. Um, keep your keep you can use spikes on the top of bat houses or to keep the birds from perching on top of it. But also look around the yard or where you're installing it to see that you haven't got like a little perfect perch for an owl to sit there and wait for the bats to come out. And again, light sources near a bat house, if they're on at night, might make bats more visible and more vulnerable to predators. If you have bat houses on posts, you might want to wrap the bottom of the post with a predator guard to keep things like snakes or squirrels from climbing up and making it a lunch box. And you might it can help bats if you install bat houses sort of near edges of vegetation or a forest edge or a line of tall hedges. The bats will then drop out of the box and that they'll often follow that line of vegetation because it provides like a shaded area at sunset, just a little bit more protection and cover as they exit. Again, site suitability, that idea of staying away from like industrial sites, cluttered sites, sites with toxic water sources or near busy traffic or over really thorny bushes. Avoid sites where you think vandalism from people might be a problem. There are ways to get around people, like putting it really high so they can't access it or adding a fence, but people will climb fences too. And evaluate that sites aren't too cold or windy or too shady. And considering the purposes for bat houses, whether it's for mitigation or education or for integrated pest management or conservation, you might set up different bat houses in different places. There's a great picture of Paula here giving a little talk at this was our community bat program meeting that we had in Peachland. And they had a education walk. And these bat houses are probably not used by bats, but they were set up so people could look at bat houses. And it had signage so that they can understand a little bit more about the bats in the region and what bat houses were about. So it depends on what your purpose is, where you might put up bat houses or how many bat houses you might install. Oops. When you're using bat houses for mitigation, we considered that fairly in a bit of detail. So if you look in the document at section 3.9.1, there's a decision tree that's set up to let you evaluate where you are, what the site is like, what the colony consists of, how big the colony is, and whether setting up bat houses or how big of a bat house you might need for a particular site. It makes you go through those decisions and figure out if a bat house is actually going to work for the colony that you're dealing with. Because of course, some bats don't use bat houses. So in those cases, a bat house isn't going to help them. And if it's a huge colony, you might need a condo, or if it's a small colony, you might use smaller bat houses. So there are a series of logical decisions that you can go through to decide what's the best option for this situation. We have some BMPs for troubleshooting. I thought this was a great shot of these people were having trouble with woodpeckers, and they screened the outside of the rocket box to try to keep the woodpeckers at bay. But we have some suggestions for overheating, overcrowding, basically shade them or put more boxes up. Poop problems. People sometimes don't like the poop that comes out the bottom. So strategic potted plants, or maybe just putting it in a place where you don't mind the poop, or putting up a poop catcher. Bird and parasite problems. Here it's like the cage or the open bottoms to keep the parasites away. Day flying bats might be an indication of an overheating issue. Accessibility for maintenance. Those are some things that you should think about before you install your bat house to make sure that you can access your bat house so you can clean it out. So best practices for human health and safety. Rabies, you should always have the rabies talk with people. There's some basic rules to follow to minimize basically encounter with any kind of bat, even if it's in a bat house or just out in the wild. Just avoiding bare skin contact with bats, it eliminates your risk. Or you just wear gloves if you have to move a bat. Advise kids never to pick up bats. Pets should have their rabies shots. And it's just that fundamental no touch means no risk, because bats will bite you. And then of course from the health people, their recommendation is if you do have contact with a bat, 15 minutes of soap and water washing your hands or the affected place, and then immediately go talk to a medical health practitioner about getting a rabies vaccine series. You remember, you're not a healthcare provider. You should never be offering healthcare advice, but you can advise them to go and see their doctor right away. And that always should be the advice. Histoplasmosis comes up with bat houses. People always ask about histoplasmosis. It's a fungus that grows in conditions where there's high nitrogen. So pigeon coops and chicken coops can be places where histoplasmosis will grow. It's found mostly in the eastern part of North America. It's endemic in the soils. Less of an issue in British Columbia and Alberta, although Alberta has had a couple of cases of histoplasmosis. Bat poop does have a lot of nitrogen, so it can harbor it can harbor histoplasmosis. Sorry, but it's really not an issue in Western Canada. But the hantavirus is an issue in Western Canada, and because mouse poop can be confused with bat poop, we always tell people to use appropriate protective devices so you're not inhaling dust when you're cleaning spaces that might have bats and or mice. You do not want to be exposed to hantavirus, but histoplasmosis isn't really the issue in British Columbia. But again, just wear a mask and you should be okay. And for people who aren't sick, histoplasmosis is usually cleared from the body. You don't really have problems with histo. A healthy body can, but if you're immunocompromised, histoplasmosis can cause an issue. The last BMP or issue is surrounding the issue of just trying to increase your chances of occupancy at bat houses, and what practices you can implement. And really, it's choosing sites near water. But you have to again remember that most of our bats will fly long distances, even like little browns and yumas. On average, can be flying 8 kilometers from their bat house. So water within 8 kilometers is still water. If you're right beside the lake, you're likely going to get bats faster than if you're not. But you can't always just build beside a lake. Increasing your local habitat diversity will improve your chances of having bats nearby, and that's if you use that Bat Friendly Communities guidebook, it has advice on planting and landscaping for bats. It's basically you're trying to farm insects for them. Protecting your local wetlands and riparian habitats is essential for bats, and taking advantage of that connectivity piece. So having lines of shrubs and lines of trees that connect habitats will help improve your area for bats. So are bat houses a good conservation tool for bats? And in some circumstances, yes, especially in urban areas where natural roosting habitat's been removed permanently because we've built houses on it, or in places where the urban forests are managed in a way that just as the trees get to the point where there's like peeling bark or broken branches or holes in them, we tend to take those trees down. So we have sometimes old trees, but not the right kind of trees for bat roosting habitat. In rural areas where you want to use integrated pest management to help control insects, bat houses can be a really good tool. In areas where you have a colony in a building and they've lost their building because of demolition or fire, good place for a bat house. And as an educational tool or conservation talking point, again, good to use a bat house. But in some circumstances, no. Bat houses can favor little browns. Little browns can form fairly large colonies, and they may use up all the resources in an area and exclude other bat species. So it may be at the detriment of other bat species that you've created this local abundance of these bat house using species. So it disrupts the natural bat community composition. And so bat houses are not a great option in non-urban parks. In urban parks, it's probably okay, but it's not something that you should be really advocating in a national park or in a non-urban park. And they're not a way to compensate for bad forest management either. And we want to really make that clear. Is you don't manage a forest and not maintain structural diversity, stand diversity, and you don't retain old trees and then think, oh, we'll just put up some bat houses and that'll do. But that's not what we're suggesting at all. You should always retain suitable trees for roosting bats. So in summary, it's a technical document. You should use it for reference. The appendices are a good resource. They're written by experts. They're a good review of the current science around physiology and bat house design. Sections 4 and 5 are useful for directing future research or if there's something you're interested in, and reporting and keeping those protocols consistent across North America. And again, there's plans to produce a 3 to 4 page summary brochure, and that should be available shortly in 2024. And I think I'm done. There, I'm done. I should have known it was going to be a whole hour.
That was great, Susan. I'm okay with you going over time. I think it's really important. I mean, this is what we do as community bat program coordinators. Yeah. So really important information definitely covered here. There's a whole bunch of questions that were coming up along while you were speaking. Let's see, a couple of them. First of all, I'm just going to stop the recording.